I'm Danielle, and welcome to another episode of The Girl on the Red Couch. If you remember, a few weeks ago, I shared with you that I am an educator by trade. I have been teaching now for the past 22 years. And if you can imagine, over those 22 years, I have seen a lot in education. From, if you can imagine, curriculum change, to textbook changes, to changes even with the technology that we use within our schools and for our students. There has been many changes within the educational realm over these past 22 years. But another trending change that I'm seeing, one that concerns me really, is a change that I'm finding in our students as well as in our parents. Now, before getting into too much details, let me just give you for example. So this year, I was provided with the opportunity to teach summer school. It was something that I had done many years ago and really didn't want to do again because it ate up too much of my summer. But when the opportunity arose this summer, I gladly accepted it. And to be honest, I'm having a real good time with the students that I serve. But one of the things that I notice about them is that they are incessant with their talking. And when I say incessant, I mean non-N-O-N, stop, S-T-O-P. For example, if I'm in front of the classroom presenting, they're talking. If one of their classmates is asking me a question, and I'm addressing that person, they're having side conversation. If a teacher comes in, or even one of the administrators, to say something or to ask a question while I'm speaking to that administrator, guess what? They're talking. Even if I am in mid-sentence and I'm saying to them, please stop, ... You guessed it, they're talking. There is nothing that phases them, I promise you. Taking away minutes off of recess does nothing to stop the talking. Threatening to call their parents does nothing to stop their talking. Threatening to call the administrator does nothing to stop the talking. Now, before I continue, let me just continue to say that these are not students who are being malicious. This is not what I'm saying at all. For the most part, they're not behavior students. However, the talking, I just don't know how to categorize it. Well, any which way, long story short, one day at dismissal, it was loud. Now, not only were my students out in the breezeway waiting to be picked up by their parents, but all of the other students that we were serving this summer were there too. For whatever reason, this afternoon, that particular afternoon, the students were the loudest they had ever been. And so, of course, after the typical, please stop talking, please lower your voices, use the inside voices, nothing was working. And so I rounded up all of my little chickies, those who belong to me, and I asked them a question, a very pointed question. And I said to them, let me ask you guys something. When you guys are home and your parents are asking you to be quiet, are they screaming at you? Are they yelling at you? Are they raising their voices at you? Of course, at this point, no one wants to raise their hand. And so I encouraged them. I said, well, you don't have to raise your hand. This is not about putting anybody on the spot. But if you want, you can even just give me a secret nod. Just make eye contact with me. Don't make eye contact with anybody else. And just let me know. And there were a few of them that gave me that secret nod. I continued and I said, okay, I'm going to ask another question. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But here is the other question. How many of your parents, when they're getting you to be quiet, do they speak to you in an inappropriate manner? Do they foul and filth? Do they use words that, really and truly, none of us should be using? And I didn't get many secret nods at this one, but I got a lot of dare caught in the headlight kind of looks. I got a lot of looks like if you remember Sylvester and Tweety, Tweety's in the mouth and Sylvester is trying to look like he really didn't eat the bird, but he did. A lot of those looks. And so immediately, you teachers know what I'm about to say. I turned this into a teaching moment, and I said to those students, I said, if this is what is happening in your home and you're being yelled at and you're being screamed at, and this is not to lay blame and this is not to lay judgment, but if this is happening, first of all, I apologize on behalf of your parents. I said, but 2 things I want you guys to remember. 1, Miss Danielle and all of the teachers who are here with you, first, are professionals, and we will never speak to you this way. Second of all, Miss Danielle, even before she is a teacher, she is a parent. And if I do not speak to my own children that way, there is no way that I am going to disrespect another person's child. And so, if I'm asking you, please, if I'm asking you, thank you, if I'm asking you kindly, can you do this for me? Turn your voices off, use your inside voices, and I'm respecting you and doing so nicely, then I would expect that you would hear me and that you would comply. Now, after that conversation, I sent them back to their seat where they were sitting. And immediately, the talking subsided. Now, they weren't silent, which is not what we wanted, but all the ruckus and the outside voices and the talking at the top of their lungs subsided greatly. And I was so impressed because in that moment, they understood, even for a minute, what I was trying to say. And so now I turn to you, my parents, and I ask you this question. Again, you're in the privacy of your own home. You don't need to raise your hand. You can give me the secret nod, or you can just self-reflect. But I ask you this question. Whenever you're communicating with your children, do you raise your voice at them? And I'm not talking about correcting them or telling them to do something for the 59th time and they're not doing it. But I'm saying in random conversation or in getting them to be quiet, are you raising your voice at them? Are you yelling at them? Are you using maybe language that you shouldn't at them? Because if you are, I'm going to tell you what's happening and why these students are talking incessantly and not really doing it to be malicious, but just doing it because without teaching your students to be disrespectful, what you really are doing is teaching them how to be disrespectful. Because understand this, if what they are accustomed to is being yelled at and screamed at and fussed at and fouled at and filthed at, and that's what gets their goat, and that's what gets them to move, and that's what gets them to be quiet, then guess what? Teachers or anyone else in authority who is over your child to keep them safe, to keep them protected, we do not stand a chance. Hear me when I say this to you. There is no condemnation. There is no judgment. But what we need to start teaching our children collectively as a community, but individually in our own homes, is that when we see respect and when we receive respect, we acknowledge respect and we give it back. I want to leave you with this thought tonight. And it is in Psalms 127, verses 3 and 15. And it says, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man who has his quiver full." Guess what? Your children are a reward from the Lord. More than that, or in addition to that, your children are a blessing to you simply because you brought them into this world. How do you treat things that are valuable? How do you treat things that are a reward? We nurture, we love on, we care for, we communicate verbally and non-verbally, in this case verbally, and we let them know, whether in good times, in bad times, in ugly times. I have kids. I know all the times. You understand what I'm saying? But in all the times that they're loved and they belong. And in that loving relationship and in that belonging relationship, we're also teaching them how to get and how to give respect. Think about ways in which you can show your child through communication how much you love them and how much they mean to you. Post in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And until next time, I will be here on this red couch waiting to see you again soon. Be well.